Morgan, I hope you know that, like, I personally and also Apple Music as a whole is just such a fan of what you have done already, what you're doing this first album, and the fact that we've got now this expanded deluxe album.
You say you hate the smell of cigarette smoke. You only used to smoke when you drank. When you lived in Chicago and chilled where the wind blows. I wish I'd known you in your wilder days.
It's fun when someone new comes along that you didn't know you were waiting for. And then there they are, and you're like, oh, I've been wanting something like this, and I didn't even know to want it.
Yeah, thank you.
I was thinking we could start by just reflecting on the difference a year makes. The indie track that you've been on, this sort of self-possessed DIY journey that you began, and then it just immediately started attracting people. And people are getting on the bus, and now, at the beginning of 2022, major label deal, single at radio, and a deluxe album coming out. I mean, that is kind of a remarkable 12 months.
It really is, yeah. I like to say that I thrived during COVID. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, I had a record finished as soon as we went into lockdown, so I was just kind of like, where are we going to go from here? And it all worked out. It allowed the whole team to just kind of like be at home and really focus on things and work really hard.
This record, to me, it works because it's you. And you also had this beautiful sort of benefit of, and I'm sure it felt hard, but like you got to make this record before all the prying eyes.
Yeah.
We're not just born knowing who we are, and especially not as artists. So I'd love to hear about that journey of discovering that, and did that come naturally?
I mean, I've always written the way that I do. For a long time, obviously, I was like, I don't fit in any way. And I remember discovering, you know, kind of Americana music in the indie scene and really being like, what is this? You know, I wasn't raised around any of that. And it was nice to kind of see, all right, the songwriting here is kind of like what I can gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So that inspired me to just write how I want to write and sing how I want to sing and just try to be as vulnerable as possible, and people were going to, you know, gravitate towards that.
I want to talk songs a little bit now. Okay. Wilder Days, I've had a fun relationship with the song, even just that I feel like it's kind of always meaning something new for me.
Yeah.
But it does this thing where I can't even articulate why, but it just makes me feel. Mm-hmm. And that's that thing, it's like you can't sit down in a room and try to make people feel.
Yeah.
It shows up or it doesn't. And has your relationship with that song changed, or does it mean new things to you now that it's been out in the world like over a year?
I mean, it has changed for me just because, you know, that's the song that we typically play last, you know, at our shows.
And what is that like?
No, man, they're screaming it right back. I mean, it's just like they lose their minds. And I mean, so yeah, for me, it's just, it's a lot of fun now. Especially, I mean, we worked really, really hard on that song. It was the first song that Sadler and I, you know, I had the idea for that and, you know, started it, and we got together and really, you know, made it to what it is now. And man, we just, it's been through a lot of transitions, and he really believed in that, and to see him so excited about how it turned out, you know, I'm just really glad that it's done as good as it's done, just because, you know, that song was really what brought him and I together and started our relationship, and he's just the greatest guy. So it's made so many connections for me.
If we were going to talk about some of these new songs that are on the deluxe album, could we start with Run?
Yeah.
Okay, feel-wise, like it is all feel for me. It's all groove, and it's kind of not a feel that was on the original album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I mean, Sadler and I wrote that over a Zoom during the pandemic. He kind of had the idea for that, and, you know, he came up with the guitar riffs and everything and went in the studio and cut it. And I think my voice, too, had changed a lot.
Ooh, talk about that.
I feel like I've learned how to control it better and knowing going in the studio. Also, I really hate being in the studio. It's just, to me, it's just like so tedious. And
The repetition or like
yeah,
what?
I get really, it's a lot of pressure, and you want to go in there and you want to do it right.
It is a lot of pressure.
And Sadler pushes me, which is good.
Like
and-
vocally?
yeah,
Like he'll be
vocally.
like, take another
He'll
step.
be
Or,
like, you can do that better. He's like, come on,
it's
and-
both a compliment and an insult.
And I'm just sitting there like,
Yeah.
cursing him. But I love what comes out of there.
Yeah.
That's the fun part is the next couple days, well, here's the demo, like, here's what we've got. And, listening to that and being like, okay.
Yeah.
I see why he was pushing me. And I always get that. But, yeah, I think it's stressful. But I feel like I had more time to sit with stuff. And I was out of the studio for so long that it is nice to go in there and re-record some stuff.
Is there a version of The Night that you had released before?
Sadler and I did that together.
Okay.
Yes. That was the very first song we ever recorded.
Okay, and so there is a new version of The Night.
Yes.
On the Deluxe album.
Yeah.
There's a line that I'm sure it's the line that everyone, but is it a rule down in the South? That line?
Yeah.
Is it a rule down in the South you can't talk about your mental health?
I know you're gonna say that.
I mean, it is a rule.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it is a rule down in the South, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's my dad and I had a conversation a couple years ago, and he was just like, I'm sorry that there were times, I didn't quite understand, what you were going through, with depression and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm saying, and I'm like, it's not your fault. Like, we all deal with things differently, but it's like, it's such a, too, especially men, I feel like get it really hard in the South, just not being able, it's just like, men don't cry, like, you gotta be tough, like, suck it up, like, not getting the chance to be emotional. And yeah, it was always just you're just, you're in your feelings kind of thing. And it was never we don't care, it's just, that's how it is kind of thing. And so, and it's funny though, being up in the North and people really connecting with that line too.
I love that you're bringing that into your lyric, and I love that, I'm sure people are feeling that as an invitation to talk about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like sobriety, we talked about it even in our little break when we were just chatting. You were saying you're 5 years sober. And you had you got sober at a really young age.
Yeah.
I find that people that are in recovery have a very low threshold for bullshit. Is that true?
Yeah.
And I don't know why do you think that is?
We're not medicating with anything, so I have to say, like, going out, now and being around, I have zero tolerance for being around drunk people, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, was I like that? Was I that annoying? Yeah, I think that you had to work on yourself for a while, so you kind of just start to, you have to deal with stuff. You're not, covering it up.
Morgan, I think it's pretty powerful too. Like, there are a handful of artists in the country space, in the Americana space, who are sober. Honestly, no women that make that part of their story.
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful that it is part of yours. And I think, I also think the way that you talk, we have artists in our genre that like are sober but sing drinking songs. And I don't get to make a judgment about that. Yeah. But like the way that you deal with the truth of your story and the way that you write about drinking, I just think you have a very powerful place in that space.
Thank you. Yeah.
Morgan, huge congrats on Reckless, the Deluxe album. And thank you. I'm honored that I got to have what felt like a really real conversation with you today. And I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah, y'all been great to me. I really appreciate it.